What's up, everybody? How's it going? Welcome to this episode of the Rant podcast. It's been a long time since we filmed anything for the podcast, and I figured that today would be a good day to do some filmwork for it. In case you couldn't tell, I'm in my kitchen. It's like one of the only other rooms in my house, which I just went there and cleaned a lot of, so forgive those boxes there. Haven't found a spot for those yet. Real quick before we get into the topic, a couple of things I want to go over with you guys. Number one, for people who are wondering where the Evo is, or where it has been for the past several videos, it has been living at More Automotive. If you follow our Instagram, which you should, there's the little blurb on the screen there. It's just a good way to keep up to date with us behind the scenes as to like what's going on and whatnot, and so the pictures. It's good times. We don't really know what happened to that car. We just know that it's in dire need of being fixed, and it's in dire need of getting probably a new intake system on it. I think the MAF is dead, or the fuel pump is gone. One of the two. I don't know, because my AFR gauge unfortunately stopped working on me. I heard that it's a common issue with the particular AFR that I bought, so yeah, there's that. But it's still there. It's still going to be part of the channel. The Lexus did not take over. We just had a lot of content with the Lexus that we were able to cover, and we wanted to give to you guys first. That said, the 240 actually is going to have a video tomorrow. So if you're watching this here on Wednesday, the very next day will be some 240 content. So I'm really excited for you guys to hear this one, because we are really excited for this one. More stuff with that car is coming, so definitely subscribe to stay tuned for all of that stuff. With that said, I guess a random little bit before we get into the topic. I have some random parts just kind of laying around. So if you're in the market for some very specific car parts, one of them is right there. That is a Wiring Specialties transmission harness, I want to say, a auto to manual conversion harness. Hit us up using the Instagram, say hey, I'm interested. I can open the box, show it to you. The reason why there's that big old scratched out space is because that was the shipping address for my house. Y'all don't really need to know that. I have another piece right here next to me, and it's a very old piece that I've had for a while. This is a Megan Racing chassis brace for a 96 to 2000 Honda Civic. Obviously it never got used, because as soon as I got this, like a day later, my Honda was totaled by the deer. That was a sad day. I've just had this, and it's really light too, by the way. I don't really know why it's this light, but if you're in the market for this, just let me know. I might have some other odds and ends as I continue to clean out my house that will be for sale, so let us know. That way we can get rid of it and it can go to a home that will actually use it. Now that that's all out of the way, let's get down to the actual topic at hand. It's one that's kind of near and dear to me, and I felt like doing a podcast on this instead of like an episode. Just because this is something that it's more ranting and less visuals, if that makes any sense. I'm ripping Boosted Bill because this one's a little bit of a shout out to you and some of the stuff that we've done with the Evo. We're going to talk about being a car guy and not having a garage. So to get down to it, the reason why I wanted to do this podcast is because I feel like there are people, and I've run into this a couple of times when I've gone to meets and whatnot. I feel like there are people out there that are really interested in being into cars and being a car person, working on their own cars and all of that stuff. But due to their living constraints, they might not have the space, they might not have the money, they may not have the means, but they want to get into it. They just can't afford to. Or they don't have the space to store tools and whatnot. And I guess this is my little message and way of saying that don't give up. You know, we on the channel actually just now got a garage, and we've been doing this for almost 4 years. And it's just kind of funny to me because it's like all I've been doing, like half the mods done to the Lancer, done to the Evo, done to even some stuff on the IS have been done on the side of the road, in the back lot of the church that I go to. Sometimes not even in the most ideal of situations where we're under a tent in the rain, or I'm in the snow doing my brakes. You know, it's just it kind of comes down to a couple of different things when it comes to being a car guy, not having a garage to work out of. Number one, it's what is it that you're willing to do on your own, and what is it that you're willing to have someone else do. And the reason why I put it that way is because there are some jobs that are just better left to professionals or people who have lifts and garage space to store stuff. Like, for example, the Lexus transmission. It's just one of those things where it's a beast to do on your own. And I only know of one person who I met personally that has actually done a full clutch exchange on his car with a lift in 45 minutes. Let me point it out. This is a job that usually takes 6 hours to do. Just because of all the tedious stuff involved, it can take up to 6 hours to get it done. So, yeah, he was definitely busting it out to try and get her done so he can start driving the car. But my point is, without a garage and a lift and a full tool set, it can be really tough to do those types of jobs. And that's kind of where you need to draw the line, or at least you need to figure out for yourself, what can I do on my own? What can I do through a shop? So, what can I do on my own? Here's the deal. We've done several brake jobs. We've fixed control arms. We've done multiple other odds and ends on the side of the road or in driveways, or been kicked out of said driveways by our HOAs, or in the lot. And for me, it wasn't that big a deal. It's a lot of just ignoring people driving by going, oh, what is that? Or people that get all up in your business like, oh, why are you doing this here, kind of thing. I've run into that a couple of times with where I live, just because that's how our HOA kind of is, which is really disappointing when you think about it, because there's an opportunity there for the community to be benefited by having car guys in their neighborhood. Sure, it might be a little bit louder than normal because exhausts or whatever, but it means that you have a guy who's passionate about what he does possibly able to help you. My landlord, shout out to you if you're watching this, he's into cars as well. I fixed a couple of things on his Honda Pilot before, one of which was the intake system that is still to this day the most watched video. I don't understand. I guess you guys that are into Honda Pilots really wanted to know about that, so thank you for watching that. Who knows, maybe we'll do more work on that car in the future. But people gave me looks, or like, why are you filming what you're doing? Or, hey, what are you doing to your car? Things like that. It just comes down to, are you willing to do the work yourself? Are you willing to just lug your tools, or find a spot in your room that you stash them, and then when you need them, you pull them out, throw them in your trunk, and then do whatever it is you got to do elsewhere, I've done oil changes in the parking lot of a Giant grocery store. The brand Giant. It was 12 o'clock at night. There was nobody there. I just needed to get it done, and there wasn't any space where I lived. So I drove 2 miles to the nearest grocery store, busted out the tools, was in the back of the lot, and just dropped oil, took care of business, wrapped up my container, took it to the AutoZone the next day. It comes down to, are you willing to make the sacrifices to be a car person or to take care of your own vehicle? There are plenty of people that I can list off that wanted to get in the cars, that wanted to get into automotive enthusiasm, but just decided not to because they felt like it'd be too much of a hassle for their lives to get into it. And to that I say, why? And some of the answers that I've gotten are, oh, well, I don't know anything about it, or, I don't trust myself to do these types of things, or, some of it's just too technical for me, or things like that. And honestly, I look at that and go, it's not really a good excuse. Yes, there are certain jobs like saying, tuning your car, a turbo conversion, or changing out your fuel system, like stuff like that. That I can definitely see being a job where you leave it to a tuning shop, because that involves computers or a carburetor specialist, someone who can sit there and nitpick with it and dial it in. But things like oil changes, spark plug replacements, relaying new wires, changing your battery, simple things can be done on your own in your own spare time. You just got to be willing to sit down and watch YouTube channels like ours to learn about these kinds of things, or talk to one of your car buddies and say, hey, do you mind teaching me this real quick? I don't know. Or just go into the hardware store and at least getting the tools to even try to do this type of stuff. There's some people I know that just don't want to give the minimum effort to even try. And I look at it going, if you're willing to spend hours on YouTube or Netflix watching stupid stuff, you have the time to sit down and watch channels like ours to sit there and learn how to do these things yourself. And in the end, you save a ton of money. The little dirty secret about the car industry is that you can do most of the stuff that you take your car in for servicing for on your own. Stuff like engine bearings, that's not something you do on your own. But say, changing out your tire for a spare, you can do that yourself on the side of the road. Or learning how to change your plugs. Simple. You need 4 tools and you're good, A screwdriver to take your little spark plug cavity cap off, or whatever you've got for that. Simple socket set, a little bit of anti-seize and you're good to go. It's not crazy. They made cars in such a way today where it's very, very straightforward to replace even things like an O2 sensor. You reach down there with the specific size wrench, you crank on it real hard until it comes off, you unplug it from the rest of the harness, you lay in a new one, and you're good. Reset your battery and be on your merry way. Not hard. Very simple stuff. It's just, are you willing to set aside the time to learn, And once you get to that point where you come to an agreement in yourself saying, you know what, I do want to try this, I do want to get into this, that's when stuff like putting in coilovers, the more difficult stuff starts to seem a little less daunting. When I first started getting into cars hardcore, like building stuff like the Evo, for example, there were things that I learned that I could do myself. Strut bars literally requires 1 tool to install. Coilovers, another good example, takes a couple different size sockets and maybe a second one, but otherwise it can be done with 1 small tool set. Exhausts, same thing, provided that your car is not rusted to pieces like Ishmael's, which you'll see that in tomorrow's episode of Car Rant. You can do it yourself. A lot of the stuff we do on this channel that we film is stuff that you can do yourself at home, and we just want to show you our progress with what we've got. And I kind of go through all of that to say, don't let the daunting task of building a tool set or not knowing how to do something stop you from trying to get into cars. I get it. This video is titled Without a Garage. A garage is where you'd keep all your tools. A garage is where you'd put the car on jack stands and get under the car and do things. I get it. Not having one is a huge inconvenience, but it shouldn't stop you from trying to get involved. It shouldn't keep you from getting into probably one of the best hobbies you can get into, because it benefits you as a person. It's not like knitting where you can sit there and, oh yeah, knit you a sweater, oh yeah, that's cool. No, you're helping someone get their mode of transportation up and running once you learn how to do some of these things. It's helping, for a great example, this past Sunday, a car in the church lot after we were done with service just wouldn't start. It was an old GMC van. It was more of a box truck, really. It had the old Vortec engine in it and everything, and the battery was just couldn't do it. They had the key in the ignition for too long, and the battery was on its way out power wise, and it just drained itself out. And as soon as they tried to start the car and you heard the famous clicking sound that the drain battery will cause the starter to make, once that sound went off, everyone in that lot looked straight at me, and all I had to do was, yep, I'm here, it's time to go to work, what can I do for you? Grabbed my jumpers, grabbed my car, pulled it up, tried to start it, then got an actual big battery out of, ironically enough, the same model car and engine, and got that to start the car. The point is that car enthusiasm kind of can benefit everyone around you and not just be a hassle like some people see it as, because now you're learning life skills, you're learning how to do things yourself, you're being independent, you're becoming more self-sufficient when you learn how to do a lot of the stuff yourself. So why not give it a shot, Learn how to do it. You don't need a garage for that. Doing your spark plugs, you can do it in the parking lot of Walmart. It's not that complicated a job. Now, you'll see next week that on the Lexus it can be, but my point is that most people's cars are not that Lexus, Most people's cars are a little bit easier to figure out. And I guess I'm saying all this to say, don't let what you don't have keep you from getting involved, from becoming a car enthusiast. Because realistically, not having those things doesn't make you not a car enthusiast. You can still love cars. You can still be into cars and go to car shows and car events. Obviously, not having a garage doesn't stop you from doing that. My point is, don't let not having a garage stop you from trying to work on your own stuff and things like that. There are people I know that I wish I could share this video with them and just tell them, like, listen, just because I do this doesn't mean that you yourself couldn't do this. Get in on this action. It's always a good time. And you know what? Once you learn how to do car stuff yourself, modifying cars becomes fun. Becomes less of a hassle and more of a, like, hey, wonder if I can do that myself. It becomes a personal challenge, and you get some nice endorphins going off in your head when things successfully come together. Like, say, example, Ishmael's exhaust, On that note, guys, thanks for tuning in. I know I kind of started to ramble and rant a little bit at the end, but I hope you guys get the point. I hope you guys enjoyed this. And if you know anyone that needs to hear this message, go ahead and tell them and point them in our direction, Find the little start time that we start talking about this topic, because I know I had a little bit of news in the beginning. But just tell them straight up, hey, man, this is how it goes. This is how it is. Give it a shot. Don't be scared. Because we need more people to want to get into the car world and get into car culture, I was able to start influencing my younger brother into wanting to get into cars and possibly go to mechanic school to get certified and stuff like that, so that he can go off and do this himself when he gets older. It's just, you never know how learning how to do car stuff could change your life. Because for me, it was the best decision I ever made. And on that note, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Like and sub if you haven't already. Make sure you hit the bell to keep up with us. And we'll see you next time. Peace.